And what's awesome about that is I feel like it's a way a business can do well by doing good. It's a sincere, genuine effort to be good and do some nice things. But we're able to use our brand to draw attention to things that matter. And our brand or any brand can stop. Oh, we're just donuts, or we're just this, we're just that. I think everybody has the opportunity to make their brand maybe be a little bit more. And if you can be a good business person, which is your job, is to do a good job with business and please your customers. But if you can do that in a way that has some benefits here and there, it makes it that much more special. And all of that was leveraged off of a consumer insight. All of it, all the acts of joy were leveraged off of consumer insight. And I think that navigating the pandemic with the consumer in mind and what their needs are and what they're going through was probably the boldest thing we did and the hardest thing we did. And it worked pretty well.
Hello and welcome to the Modern Customer Podcast. I'm your host, Blake Morgan. If you haven't already, head over to customerexperiencecommunity.com. At customerexperiencecommunity.com, you will find a social network where you can privately talk to and engage with other customer experience leaders and practitioners. Every week we're meeting on video and talking about customer experience best practices, but we're also addressing issues such as leading during tough times. Head over to customerexperiencecommunity.com to join in on the fun. Today, my guest for the Modern Customer Podcast is Dave Skena, Chief Marketing Officer for Krispy Kreme. Krispy Kreme is a beloved donut brand that's 85 years old. Today, we're talking about the CMO and the CMO's role in driving customer experience. What does the digital strategy look like for Krispy Kreme, and how is Krispy Kreme pivoting during COVID to create moments of joy with customers? Listen to the whole interview, including the end, where you hear Dave's fun answers to my rapid fire round and his most embarrassing work moment. Let's get started. Dave, welcome to the Modern Customer Podcast, all the way from the Innovation Center today. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Blake. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to talking to you and getting a chance to talk to your guests. I appreciate it.
Yeah, a lot of our listeners and viewers are really interested in how to build a brand, how to be innovative. Krispy Kreme is obviously one of the most well-recognized brands in the world, and you're at the Innovation Center today. Are you actually doing some taste tests for future products today?
I actually have tasted some future products today. Of course, I can't tell you all of them, but we do a lot of all the holiday innovations. I mean, folks will shortly see our Valentine's Day collection and St. Patrick's Day, but we also do a whole lot of new to the world donuts. And whatever we try, we make right here first, and we make sure we can do them properly on the equipment in the store. We have a full kitchen here to try all our ideas out on, and it replicates the shops completely, so we know we can do it right. And that is just definitely one of the job perks of trying out all the innovative ideas we have, and it's a good part of the job.
It sounds like an amazing part of the job. Krispy Kreme is, I believe, 85-year-old brand. You have worked at quite a few brands in the food services industry. You were at Pepsi. You were at Ruby Tuesday. You've also been a consultant. How did you get into food and then into marketing, if that was the trajectory?
Yeah, it's and I think for listeners, and I tell my own kids this all the time. I mean, you have lots of choices in life, and you don't have to end where you start. My undergraduate stuff was in political science and economics, and then I became sort of a systems and supply chain consultant for a while, then went back because I noticed in those companies, mostly CPG companies, that a lot of the stuff that I thought was pretty cool was coming out of the marketing group and brand marketing, which was something I didn't even know what it was. So I went back and got my MBA and did a career switch over to marketing and started at Kraft, which was a wonderful training academy, PepsiCo, which is a phenomenal company in so many respects. And I learned a ton. I learned a ton about marketing and business and all those experiences. And food and beverage was just kind of where I started out. And so I stuck with it. I like the industry. It's a really challenging industry. It's really fun. It's very relatable, right? When you're marketing food or beverage, people know the brands you work on. And for me, that's always fun. when you get to walk in a grocery store or go into a retail shop and you recognize some things that your team did or you did, and it's always fun to do that. So I went into restaurants with Ruby Tuesday, and then on here to Krispy Kreme. One of the things I loved here at Krispy Kreme about this opportunity was we have now a CPG side of our business here, which we're growing and making bigger and more national and opening up more access there, and also this retail side of the business. And so I feel like I get to use everything I've learned along the way, and there was really no wasted experience at all. And it's really fun to do it here.
When you think of customer experience, walking into a donut shop, I mean, there's nothing more vivid than that experience. You smell the delicious smells, you see the beautiful products behind the glass that are glistening. Maybe you're hearing some 1950s music, or you're greeted by somebody in a uniform that is really chirpy when they talk to you. I mean, it just seems like an experience you could have so much fun with on the marketing side. Can you talk about how you view customer experience and how you bring that to the work you're doing at Krispy Kreme?
Well, it's everything. And you automatically went to what I would refer to as sort of our top customer experience, our apex experience, and that is walking into the retail donut shop. And I love the way you described it because it's all the senses, right? Sight, sound, touch, smell, taste, of course. And that's what makes it so great. It's all that coming together. I think a big part of the experience is what it does to drive what people believe about your brand and find to be true about your brand. For us, for donut, we're unique. I mean, we're making these donuts fresh right off the line. The whole manufacturing facility, if you will, is right there in front of you. You can see it from the time it's dough, watch it proof, watch it fried, glazed, and then it's in your mouth. I mean, there's really very few experiences quite as authentic and immediate as that, where the whole process is just on view for the world, and that's the way we like it. That's the way we like it for sure. But there are other customer experiences we have. More and more, we have to think about what that digital experience is like, because more and more of our consumers want to be reached out to, or want the convenience being able to reach out to us in those channels. And of course, in a grocery store, now we have to think about, well, how do we bring to life some sort of experience in the grocery store through our merchandising, through our packaging? You have all these CPG concerns. And so what customer experience means to me is really broadened, but I focus a lot on how we can bring the magic, the kinds of senses you just described, to life in that store. Because when we have an limited time only offer, of our donuts innovations around a holiday, the colors pop, the place smells great, there's anticipation. People just aren't really angry when they walk into a Krispy Kreme.
Right. They're getting a
They're
treat.
happy. Yeah, if they were sad moments before, typically when they walk in, they feel great. And one of the coolest things about our customer experience is a big part of our customer experience is that our customers want to share that experience. Most of our donuts are purchased and given to somebody else, which is kind of bizarre. I mean, you probably don't go shopping for cars that way. I'll just pick up 6 and I'll give 5 away. Like, it's
Right.
not something you do. But even other indulgent products. I mean, how many people go, oh, I'll go buy a 12 pack of, candy bars and hand out 11. That's not what you do, but you do that with donuts. And so people connect with them. People use them as, a bit of social currency to demonstrate that you're a generous, thoughtful person. And of course, I certainly believe that Krispy Kreme's an extra special thing to share. And that is part of the experience. It goes all the way through to the moment of consumption. And that moment of consumption is often with friends, coworkers, family, and it's important.
Wow. I love the way you describe. Basically, we're in the experience economy, and there's nothing more experiential than a retail donut shop. That the brand means something, because I think most people, at least in the US, have tried a Krispy Kreme donut, and it's really the taste that differentiates them. They're very unique. There are a lot of donut shops, but Krispy Kreme is quite unique. Let's talk about what the digital customer experience means to you. Since you mentioned it, Dave, could you describe how you've built the customer journey and what were some of the tenets that were important to you as you set out to build a customer journey that was just really helpful for the customer?
Right? Uh, we weren't far enough along in this journey just a few years back at all. And in fact, we did not have the capability of delivery other than through third parties. We were getting some of them online, but our own web or app orders and a lot of the third party delivery functionality we just didn't have. And fortunately, quite fortunately, we were working on it and we were able to roll that out nationally in February of 2020 before everyone went into lockdown of March 2020. So
Wow.
very, very fortuitous timing. And what's funny is we'd planned for, a small amount percent of our sales to come from delivery as we kind of worked the kinks out and got used to it and everything. And suddenly our digital consumer experience that was very young and very new was getting double digits of percents of sales immediately. And of course, thank God we had it. But one of the things that was interesting for us, and maybe for your viewers, I hope listeners, is that curveballs come at you all the time, and we were up and functional and ready, but we weren't necessarily ready for that volume and people wanting to access the brand in a digital way. I mean, I think that the word you always use, the buzzword's frictionless, right? Well, what do we mean by that? We just want it to be easy. We want people to be able to find what they want, get it, and get out. And you know, most of the folks who access our website or app, or through a third party for that matter, there's not a whole lot of browsing. They want to be able to just pick what they want, get it, and get out. Almost more like a drive-through in our case, versus having a lot of experiential touch points and making it sticky and things like that. And so we're thinking about how do we make it easy? How do we make it consistent with what we do in the shop? We have a lot of people who use those just to arrange pre-orders or pickup. And that was a surprise we learned about the digital experience. A lot of people want to use it simply to pre-order things in front of major holidays like Valentine's Day or Christmas to make sure that they get it. We are a fresh product and we make everything fresh every day. And one of the downsides of that, you can run out. And one of the cool surprises about this digital journey is we found out there was a huge amount of demand of people who just wanted to make sure they could get what they want and have it pre-ordered. So pre-orders became sort of an unexpected win. So you have this mix of people using it for pickup, just convenience, a lot of people using it delivery, either in our own app or on the third parties. And then one of the surprises was people using it to pre-order. One of the most important parts of our digital experience is, can people find the innovations, the new stuff, the stuff that's buzzworthy?
Mm-hmm.
And we've had to put a huge focus on that because guess what? That's the thing that's easiest to run out of. So I think we've kept at it. We're not perfect in our digital journey. We're not all the way where we want to be, but I guess that's kind of my point. It's better to be up and running and provide something for your guests to be able to access you, even if you've got extra work to do. Wish we would have had another year of experience with it before the most significant change in consumer behavior happened in the last 100 years. But we were able to do a nice job with it. And thank goodness we were up and running by that time.
So I'd like to shift gears and talk a little bit about customer experience as if we're in the shop, so to speak, or the garage. Let's talk about how you measure customer experience. I mean, CMOs, it's sort of a new thing for the CMO to drive customer experience or even own it. Could you talk about how you drive customer experience and then how you check and measure the success of customer experience?
You know, there are long-term and short-term answers to this question for sure. And I'll start with the short term. I think most of the industry does this as well. Not unique to Krispy Kreme. Of course, we're measuring overall satisfaction, and we do that through different surveys. Of course, we're measuring friendliness, taste, freshness, all of those on a very consistent basis. And we're using that feedback down to the shop level to course correct where we need to. I don't think that part is particularly uncommon, in certainly for operators in this industry. It is maybe newer for a lot of CMOs to do it. I would imagine most are now. But two of the big things that I look at as a marketer over time, longer term, is one is your net promoter score. So people, how satisfied are people that they're willing to always recommend you to a friend? But the other thing we look at, and frankly, my most important metric that I look at over time is brand love. And we define that basically the only scores that count is on a scale of 1 to 10 is a 10. And that 10 means I absolutely love the brand. And we found that to be the biggest indicator of are you going to come back or not? And are you going to evangelize for the brand? At the end of the day, while our brand is far bigger than our business, like you said, it's the brand is known all over the world, but we don't have a shop on every street corner. There's something about that scarcity that's interesting and creates that, and almost call it like buzz around things that we do. And so providing an experience that's consistent is important, just as it is for any company. But people expect it to be even more special because we're not everywhere. They travel further to get that shop experience. And if you're not on point when they do that, they're going to fall out of love with the brand. So, love's a two-way relationship. And if they're going to drive 20 miles just to get a taste of a Krispy Kreme, you don't want to let them down. And so we really do look at brand love as a measure of intensity of liking. And for a marketer like me, I think that's one of the big things we want to change over time because we want to become the most loved sweet treat brand in the world, all over the world. That's our goal.
Makes sense. Can you talk about the makeup of your team, Dave? For example, do you run or own the contact center? Do you have how many marketers work for you? Do you run social media? Or do you have a chief digital officer? I would love to hear really about the makeup of your team.
Sure, absolutely. So, working within marketing, I know different companies do this in different ways, but what we found works well for us is all of that is grouped under the CMO. So, digital consumer experiences, we have a head of digital consumer experiences and a team in e-commerce and a team in CRM under them, and that reports up through marketing here in the US. We have a marketing communications lead with all the things you mentioned around media and, of course, the creative and all of that laddering up through them. And then we also have innovation ladders up through the chief marketing officer. And those are kind of like the three big pieces within the retail shop side. But we also have a full marketing team on our CPG side, which is critical. And it's critical that they be a different team because, of course, the way in which not only the business, how you go to market and everything's very different, but the levers you can pull to provide a good customer experience are completely different in a CPG system than they are in the shop. You have less control over the environment, but you have more control over the package and things like that. So that is how we're organized. We've been organized that way for a good bit. Across the world, the different countries have tried different things. If their business models just tweak a little bit this way or a little bit that way, but by and large, we found that organizing innovation and digital and marketing, of course, under the chief marketing officer is a way to make sure that it's an integrated experience.
And so, how involved are you in creating the digital experience? Like, do you personally walk through the buyer experience as well?
I think all of us do actually, and including not just me, by the way. I would say everybody on our executive team walks through that buyer's experience on our app or our website or however we're engaging with consumers, even on a third party, to kind of speed test everything on a fairly consistent basis. So certainly, if I'm not doing it, I have lots of people tell me if anything seems a little bit off, which is always helpful, as you might imagine. But everybody, it's something that we know is important. It's part of, the buzzword, of course, is omni-channel, but it's part of being more accessible to consumers. And so we've done that through expansion into grocery. We've done that through expansion in e-commerce for delivery and pickup. We've done that by, expanding our physical footprint. It's all about access because people, as you mentioned at the top, they do love this brand. And so they want it to be more convenient and accessible in new ways. Digital is one of the primary ways that is new and provides incremental growth, and it's an expectation. And so I would say, not just me in marketing, I would say everybody in the company is well aware that digital is a key experience now. And that, that's different than it was a few years ago. A few years ago, some people got it and understood it, but it wasn't broadly accepted. Now, of course, since the pandemic, it's extremely broadly accepted.
Yeah, the pandemic has really either been very good for companies or very, very bad. I know you're interested in the idea of moments of joy. Some people call it surprise and delight. Do you want to talk more about your moments of joy strategy with our audience?
I absolutely would. I could talk all day about that. It was one of the unexpected outcomes of the pandemic. Uh, I started here a little over 3 years ago. One of the first things we did was do a deep dive what consumers who love the brand the most love about our brand the most. And I didn't want to look at averages. I wanted to look at what only the people who cared and loved us the most thought about us, because they're going to have the most distinct opinions, and then that's what we want to halo off of. And I know through that work that they saw us as a warm, fun, and authentic brand. We knew all that long before the pandemic. We also asked consumers what they valued about other humans. So the people who love us the most, what do they value about relationships they have and with others? And what came to the top with us and that was both this notion around trustworthiness and generosity. Generosity is kind of an unusual thing for a brand to be associated with, in my experience. And so, heading into the pandemic, we knew that we like everyone else were faced with this option of, do you kind of go into defense mode when the pandemic hit, preserve cash and fold up shops and aggressively contain cost. And we took the decision to be more on offense, which was fortunate. We had some structural advantage. We have drive-throughs. We have the ability to operate and limited staff. And so we were able to use some of those advantages. But where we really went after it was with these acts of joy, where we said, look, these are tough times. We can't make surgical masks. We don't know
Right.
how to make ventilators. We don't make hand sanitizer, but we can make people's day a little brighter. That was the basic insight behind all the acts of joy. And so we started giving donuts away. And I remember it wasn't like everyone thought it would work and inside or out when we said, let's give unlimited amounts of donuts away for free to anyone in the medical profession for 8 weeks, 8 Mondays in a row from Doctor's Day to Nurse's Day. That was our first act of joy. And you know what? The first couple Mondays, what you'd expect happened. Everybody showed up and took a bunch of donuts for free, and we gave away a bunch of product and didn't make any money. But then a weird thing happened is that these same people would keep coming back, and first they were super grateful, and then they would buy a couple dozen after they took a couple dozen, and it kind of grew and ended up being good for the business and great for the brand. We didn't stop there. We felt bad for graduates, so we gave every senior in America who wanted one a free dozen processed donuts, like with icing, the whole 9 yards. I mean, it was great. People were super excited about that. Again, that day we didn't, it's not like we're making any money when we give all the product away, but like over time, people remember that and they remember you and they come back more often and they believe in you. So I think it was good. It was a good thing to do and it's good business. And last year we said we'll give a free donut to anyone who got a vaccine. That went over extremely well. We just like everybody else, we just wanted to get to the end of this. Nobody was trying to be political or anything. We just wanted to get back to life. And most recently, I read about this crisis we had, the Red Cross has with between winter storms and the Omicron variant. A lot of people weren't able to give blood, and so just a couple of days ago, we announced we'd give a free dozen donuts to anybody who gave blood to help us get past that. And what's awesome about that is I feel like it's a way a business can do well by doing good. It's a sincere, genuine effort to be good and do some nice things. But we're able to use our brand to draw attention to things that matter. And our brand or any brand can stop. Oh, we're just donuts, or we're just this, we're just that. I think everybody has the opportunity to make their brand maybe be a little bit more. And if you can be a good business person, which is your job, is to do a good job with business and please your customers. But if you can do that in a way that has some benefits here and there, it makes it that much more special. And all of that was leveraged off of a consumer insight. All of it, all the acts of joy were leveraged off of consumer insight. And I think that navigating the pandemic with the consumer in mind and what their needs are and what they're going through was probably the boldest thing we did and the hardest thing we did. And it worked pretty well.
Yeah, it seems like some companies either shrink when there's something like this that happens and other companies just really show bravery and show kindness, and customers respond to that because everybody's looking for a little bit of joy at a time where it's hard to see people's pain right now, and a lot of it is invisible, where people, there's just this mental health crisis all over the world, and it is a tough time, and it's really a time where businesses are being watched. And how do you respond during this time where the hard stuff isn't over? It's, we're still like knee deep in this pandemic. So I think that's really,
Yeah.
really great. If you could give all of the marketers listening and watching one piece of advice to how to be a customer focused CMO, what would you tell them?
Well, it's the oldest advice in the world for any marketer, which is just know your consumer. But I do think the next step of that is don't worry about the consumers who very infrequently visit you in terms, I mean, worry about growing their business, that's fine. But in terms of worrying about the brand, ask the consumers who love the brand the most why they love you. Whether you're selling motorcycles or donuts, it'll all get back to the same insight you want, which is they're the ones who, if you lose relevance with the people who love you the most, you've lost the brand. And I think that's some of the best work our insights group did here. And I think it's something that we ride for years. And that's absolutely advice I'd give to marketers is pay a lot of attention to the people who are obsessed with your brand and why they're obsessed with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they usually tell you something that's extremely meaningful to everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so really talk to your customers. Is that something that you do pretty regularly?
Well, absolutely, in a variety of ways, right? When you're sitting here, just like everyone else who's out there listening, you're working hard, and you can easily lose time to spend with any customers in shops at all. So, but we make it a habit. Our CEO is very committed to making sure we go out. Over Christmas, I went to 4 or 5 cities to see consumers in different shops all around the country. It's good for our team members, but also for us to meet customers in a lot of different areas. Then you follow that up with your surveys. You follow it up with internet surveys, with your central location tests, with all of the normal testing methodologies you do, and you end up with all those things, a pretty well-rounded picture of the customer. And I think if you spend more than a week out of the shop in anything, it's retail, that's too long. You've got to be in there as frequently as you can, and not be shy about talking to people in line.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I bet you don't tell them what you do, right?
Typically, no,
Yeah,
no.
yeah. All right. Well, I think this interview has been really informative, and it's so great to have you on here. Let's close with a fun rapid fire round that doesn't have as much to do with customer experience, but it just has to do with you, Dave. Are you ready for this rapid fire interview?
I guess we'll find out. All right, let's see what happens.
All right. We'll start with the one that people hate the most. What is your most embarrassing work moment?
Oh my gosh, an
It's going.
embarrassing work moment. I know. Well, actually, yeah, I can think of it. This was back at PepsiCo. I remember a very important meeting that somehow was on the wrong time. It was with a bunch of people I never got to talk to, who were 5 levels up from me. And yeah, I walked in an hour late to it, right on time.
Oh no.
An hour late. Yeah, that was pretty embarrassing. Honestly, it wasn't my fault. I want to make that clear.
Okay.
But man, I felt like 2 inches tall. That was, and everybody definitely turned and looked and did one of these.
Mm-hmm.
Not
Yeah.
good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very cool. That's a good one. If you could have lunch with anybody, dead or alive, who would it be?
Oh, this might sound kind of cheesy, but my dad or my mom, so who both passed, but um, that is absolutely who I would. If we want to go more the famous, more famous route, boy, I think it'd be a heck of a fun dinner or lunch to talk with like an Ernest Hemingway or Winston Churchill. Those two guys would be pretty interesting cats to talk to.
Absolutely. If you were stuck on an island and you had water, but you could bring one food and one other drink, what would they be?
You know, you know what? I don't think I'm not going to pick any former employer product or
Hmm.
current employer product.
Okay.
So for the food, And I have unlimited supplies of this, presumably, so we'll go with pizza and Diet Pepsi. I guess I did pick a
Yeah.
formula. Yeah.
Well, that's okay. I mean, you're just being honest. Very good. Pizza's smart because it's actually a few foods put together. That's a good one. Um, what is the greatest band of all time?
Wow. That's not, you see, you didn't ask my favorite band. You said the greatest band. I mean, I'd have to go with the greatest band of all time is the Beatles.
Very cool. Well, this has been so fun, so interesting, and I can't wait to go back into Krispy Kreme soon and see the digital experience versus the in-store experience. I'm gonna go this weekend. So thank you for being here, Dave.
You bet. Try them both. I really appreciate you giving me the time with your listeners. I hope they got something from it, Blake, and I'm just very appreciative of you having me on today.
Awesome. Well, this has been fun. All of you have been listening and watching the Modern Customer Podcast. Until next time. Thank you for listening to this podcast episode. Please subscribe and don't forget to check out my new community at customerexperiencecommunity.com. Join your peers, get access to incredible resources, and become a founding member. See you there.